God places everything he has for you in your imagination. So if you've been dreaming of your own business, if you've been dreaming of a summer home, it's because that's what he got for you. He places everything he has for you in your imagination. And then to quit worrying about how to get it done. The how-to is none of your business. The Bible say, ask, believe, receive. Now you got to be willing to work, but he don't require you to figure it out. The how-to is none of your business.
We all have promises we're standing on. It's easy to believe at first, but what happens when nothing is improving? Before the promise comes to pass, you have to go from I believe to I still believe. You're not discouraged by how long it's taking. You know God is still on the throne. What he promised is on the way. God is looking for I still believe people. All the facts say it's impossible. Your attitude is, that's okay. God can do the impossible. Maybe you tried to accomplish a dream, but no doors opened. That's all a part of the process. God didn't give you the dream and not have a way to bring it to pass. God didn't change his mind. He just needs some I still believe faith. Don't get talked out of your dreams. The negative chatter, the people who don't believe in you, the environment you were raised in is not going to stop your destiny. Your time is coming. It's not too late. What God put in your heart is still on the way.
God has a win. He's not making this up as he goes. He's not just responding to your moves, your attitudes, and things your friends say about you. You are not at the mercy of your detractors. You are only at the mercy of the timing of God. God has a watch and a timer is on it, and it's already set. Everything is on schedule. Don't worry about your purpose. Worry about your season. Because when you get in your season, your purpose will be clear.
Now, here's what we know. That people don't do what they know in life, but what they do is they operate within the context of the vision they have of themselves. So one of the first things I ask you to do is I want you to look at your life right now and think about something that's important to you. Think about something that you'd like to have or something you'd like to create for you or your family. Now, one of the first things I want you to do is don't worry about the inner conversation that you're going to have. Don't worry about how you're going to do it. That's going to come. You will find the way. You'll become the kind of person that can attract the people, the resources in order to make that become reality. But I want you to be mindful of your inner conversation. I remember once I was sitting in an audience and Zig Ziglar, he was giving a speech, and within myself I said, I can do that. And I leaned over to the guy next to me. I said, how much do they pay him to do that? And he said, $5,000. I said, I know I can do that. And then on the way home, when I was driving back to Miami, Florida, my inner conversation kicked in. And it said, Les Brown, you can't do that. You don't have a college education. You don't have the money. You don't have the contacts. What makes you think that you can make more in 1 hour talking than you've made working for a whole month? How many of you have ever thought about something you wanted to do and you talked you out of it? Raise your hand, please. The wealthiest place on the planet is the graveyard. Because in the graveyard, we will find inventions that we never were exposed to, hopes and aspirations that were never acted upon. Because most people allow that inner conversation to keep them from ever pursuing their goals. Why is it that most people don't ever reach their goals or live up to their true potential? One is fear, like the fear of failure. The next is the fear of success. I was working on a major project. I panicked and I walked away from it and gave it to someone else because I didn't believe that I could handle it. So that a lot of people become comfortable. They stop wanting anything. They become satisfied. I remember after giving a speech at a major corporation, a gentleman came up to me and he said, you know, that's real great motivation for you young guys, but I've done all my work. I said, oh yes, you've got a lot to give. The fact that you're still here means that your business is not through yet. The other thing that keeps us from reaching our goal is not feeling worthy. Because see, when you don't feel worthy of your goal, you will begin to unconsciously engage in self-destructive behavior, like procrastinating, something else that keeps us from reaching our goal, and that is we spend so much time complaining and blaming everybody. I'm reminded of a friend of mine who talked about the fact that one day he was walking by and there was a dog on the porch, and this dog was just moaning and groaning. And he asked the owner, he said, "Why is this dog moaning and groaning?" And the owner said, "Because he's laying on a nail." He said, "Well, why doesn't he get off?" He says, "It's not hurting bad enough for him to get off." How many of you know people who moan and groan and complain about life? They might moan and groan about their job. "I'm sick of this job," and never do anything about it. They haven't got to the point where they're sick and tired of being sick and tired. No, that can't get you where you want to go. That cannot create your reality for you. The other thing that keeps most people from realizing their true greatness and their true potential, circumstances.
Are you letting your circumstances talk you out of what God put in your heart? God still wants to bring it to pass, but you have to get in agreement with Him and say, "God, I still believe it can happen. I still believe I can start my business. Joel, I tried and it didn't work out." That doesn't mean it's not going to happen. You have to have a made-up mind that you're going to believe until you see that promise come to pass. The odds are against me, but I still believe I can accomplish my dreams. I was raised in dysfunction, but I still believe I can set a new standard.
Given my circumstances, ladies and gentlemen, I shouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now. No one could have convinced me, given my circumstances, given my background, that I would be doing what I'm doing right now. When I was in 5th grade, I was identified as EMR, labeled educable mentally retarded, and stayed in that category until I got out of high school. But here's what happened. I had an intervention in my life. A man who saw something in me in a time that I did not in myself. And he asked me to go up to the board and write something on the board. And I said, "I can't do that, sir." He said, "Why not?" I said, "Go up to the board and write what I'm about to tell you." I said, "I can't do that, sir." "Why not?" "I'm educable mentally retarded." He said, "Don't ever say that again. Someone's opinion of you does not have to become your reality. That once a person's mind is expanded with an idea, it can never be satisfied to going back to where it was." Some of you are going to go back and look at your dreams and brush them off. Whatever goal that you have in mind, I want that to be a goal that will challenge you. What is it that you looked at some point in time and you decided that you couldn't do it? Bring it back out there. How are you going to do it? That will come to you in due time. See, you don't get in life what you want, ladies and gentlemen. You get in life what you are. You've got to begin to take a look at your life and look at where are you right now? What gives your life a sense of fulfillment, a sense of joy? What is it that you could love doing 7 days a week? In all the areas of your life, your professional life, your personal life, your family life, once you begin to determine that, that takes you to the next step. And that is, now you've got to decide that you deserve that. Repeat after me, please. I deserve the best that life has to offer. Shake somebody's hand on your right and left and say, "Find your purpose." Do you know by actively pursuing your purpose, it could perhaps extend your life? The number one killer of all the diseases we have, heart disease. The truth of the matter is that the majority of people suffer their first major heart attack on Monday morning between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. People getting ready to go to jobs that they don't like. You see, when you're not pursuing your goal, you are literally committing spiritual suicide. But you've got to believe in yourself. I was doing work for a major corporation, and they were having a major downsizing. The people working there, they approached them and said, "Listen, we will give you a buyout package of $300,000 if you take it within this time frame." Ladies and gentlemen, only 50% of the people that were eligible took this. If I'd been there, I'd have gone to ask for your check. I would have taken that money so quick and had other people checks. See, ladies and gentlemen, life is too short trying to play it safe. Here's the thing. You can't get out of life alive. So there's no safe position. You can die in the bleachers or you can die on the field. You might as well come out on the field and have a good time, right? So you got to be bold in life.
I want to ask you this question. If you could do something impossible, what would it be? Maybe it would be some exploit for God, something that God's laid on your heart. Maybe if you could do something impossible, it would be in the realm of a relationship. What would it be that you'd like God to do that's impossible? Well, I have wonderful news for you tonight. God wants to do the impossible for you, his child. People that don't have God or his power do great things all the time. God doesn't call you to do great things. God calls you to do impossible things. Listen to these few quotes. I love them dearly. A.W. Tozer, God is looking for those with whom he can do the impossible. I love this next sentence. What a pity that we plan only the things that we can do by ourselves. George Mueller, faith does not operate in the realm of the possible. There is no glory for God in that which is humanly possible. Faith begins where man's power ends. The great missionary Amy Carmichael to India, when you're facing the impossible, you can count on the God of the impossible. I love this quote from Warren Wiersbe. Our faith is not really tested until God asks us to bear what seems unbearable, to do what seems unreasonable, and to expect what seems impossible. D.L. Moody, if God is your partner, make your plans big and impossible. We say, Brother Gibbs, those are the words of men. Well, listen to these verses. Jeremiah 22:17. O Lord God, behold, thou hast made the heaven and the earth, and by thy great power stretched out thine arm. There is nothing too hard for thee. Jeremiah 32:27. Behold, I am the Lord, the God of all flesh. Is there anything, he asks, that's too hard for me? Matthew 19:26. But Jesus beheld them and said unto them, with men this is impossible, but with God all things are possible. Have you ever noticed we stopped talking about the impossible? And yet we serve the God of the impossible.
All of us at some point in our life have had our backs to the wall and we think, God, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. I don't know which way to turn. What shall I do? We've had our backs to the wall and everything looked rather impossible. It looks impossible for us to be able to get through this without a great deal of pain or hurt. It looks impossible for us to get through this without some real financial problems developing. It looks impossible for us to be healed after what the doctor said. So there are all kinds of situations we come into. The first thing I want you to notice here is this, and that is that Jesus is aware of those circumstances in which we feel it is a seemingly impossible situation. You notice I didn't say an impossible situation, but seemingly impossible. It appears to be impossible. It looks like it's impossible. For example, when you and I hit one of those difficult situations in life, or our backs to the wall, or we think something looks impossible, what do we say? We say, oh Lord, what am I going to do? Wrong question. Now remember, this is really important because you're going to get one of these. Lord, what in the world am I going to do? How many of us have asked that? Oh God, what in the world am I going to do? That's not the right question. The right question is, Lord, what are you going to do? Nothing is impossible when the supernatural invasion of God by the Lord Jesus Christ comes into our life and he enters our circumstance to deal with them. If I alone have to deal with them, I'm going to have a problem. But if he begins to deal with them, if I allow him, if I acknowledge him, if I call upon him into my circumstance, he is going, because of his compassion and love, to deal with that circumstance no matter what it is. And oftentimes we wonder why things don't happen right. We wonder why we can't figure it out. God doesn't want us figuring it out. He wants us to rely upon him, to trust in him, and as he says, to call upon him. Not only is he aware of our circumstance, but listen, he always has a plan for our seemingly impossible circumstances. That is, Jesus is never caught off guard. That is, He always knows what He's going to do, and He knows how He's going to do it, and He knows how, where, when, and He knows exactly the resources that are necessary. No matter what you're facing in life, He knows exactly what to do. So I'm going to stop my calculation. I'm going to start trusting and see what you do. You'll be amazed at what God can turn around in your life.
So we want to seek God for the impossible. Believe God for miracles. Dream that God would do more in our lives than we ever imagined for His glory and our good. So let's lay the foundation for this by looking at two different stories about Jesus. And what's interesting is that Jesus was amazed at two different times for two different reasons. Story one, Jesus is in His own hometown, and people were being critical of Him for saying who He was. They said, "Who does this man say He is?" People wondered. They didn't like it. In Mark 6, verse 5 through 6, it says, "He could not do many mighty miracles there, except lay His hands on a few sick people and heal them. He was amazed at their lack of faith as to who He said He was." Story number 2. This is a Roman centurion. But this centurion had a sick servant. He goes to Jesus and asks Jesus to heal his servant. That centurion believed that Jesus could heal the servant with just a single word. Luke 7, verse 9. When Jesus heard this from the Roman centurion, he was amazed, and turning to the crowd following him, he said, "I tell you, I have not found such great faith even in Israel." Two different times Jesus was amazed. Lack of faith, great faith. So question, and only you can answer this. If Jesus looked at your faith level, would He be amazed at how big, how audacious and bold your faith is? Or would He be amazed how small it is and how lacking it is? Think about this last year. What great faith steps did you take in any area this past year? Did you attempt something so bold, maybe a bit risky, that you could not have pulled off without God? How about your prayer life? What did you pray for? What if God answered every one of your prayers? What would be different in the world? Here's what's sad. For many, many Christians, nothing would be different because they didn't pray, didn't take any action, they weren't bold. And God says, "I can do all things." And you don't even try. Would God be amazed at your great faith or amazed at your lack of faith?
Nothing is impossible with God because He has no failures. We don't read in the Bible where God tried really, really hard, but it didn't work out. Nothing is impossible with God because He always understands. Listen, right now, the problem that is absolutely tormenting your head, God already knows what the answer is. He knows who the answer is. He knows where the answer is. He knows how to fix it. He knows how to change things. The problem is we measure God's ability by our ability. Because we can't do it, because we don't know it, because we've never experienced it, we lump God in with us, and we think God is up there going, "I hear you." Absolutely, it's not going to work. You know what we do? We measure by our understanding. When we face a problem in marriage or health or finances or children or whatever's going on in life, often what we want to know is how. How could this possibly work out? John 6, 8, and 9. Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, he spoke up saying, "There is a boy here with 5 barley loaves and 2 small fish, but how far will they go among so many?" That's the problem. He's trying to work it out. Multiply by, get out the calculator. No, I don't get it, Jesus. How can it possibly work out? I don't understand it. Faith doesn't mean you have to understand how. How exactly is God going to supply it? You're not required to understand. You're required to believe. God helps us in areas of life that are impossible because He knows later on you're going to face more impossible situations. And He wants you to be able to look back. That's why when the 5,000 men plus women and children, when they were all fed miraculously, the Bible says there were leftovers. 12 baskets. How many disciples? 12. Each of them carried a basket full. Why? Because for the rest of their life, if they came up against another impossible situation, they would remember the time that God did a miracle so big there were leftovers.
I want you to look in Matthew chapter 14. God says, you want me to do the impossible. He gives us a lesson here. It's the story of Peter walking on the water. We're going to start at verse 22. And straightway Jesus constrained the disciples to get into a ship and to go before him unto the other side while he sent the multitudes away. And when he had sent the multitudes away, he went up into a mountain apart to pray. But the ship, now the disciples in verse 24, was now in the midst of the sea, tossed with waves, for the wind was contrary. The disciples are in a ship, Jesus has put them in it, and they are in a hellacious storm, a fierce storm. A storm that has these disciples, including the mariners, terrorized. Now look at what happens. And in the fourth watch of the night, Jesus went unto them, walking on the sea. And when the disciples saw him, verse 26, walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, it's a spirit. And they cried out for fear. But straightway Jesus spake unto them, saying, be of good cheer, it is I, be not afraid. Now somebody is going to ask God for the impossible. Oh, they've seen the impossible. That's how he fed the 5,000. But now they're going to ask for the impossible. Verse 28. And Peter answered him and said, Lord, if it be thou, bid me come unto thee on the water. Here's the first key. You got to ask. You got to ask for the impossible. You see what Peter did? Lord, bid me come unto thee on the water. Now, all the disciples were in that boat, all of them. But only one asked. But because one man asked, God did the impossible. When's the last time you asked specifically? In James, where it says, ask and ye shall receive. It's the word for asking with specificity. When's the last time you asked for the impossible? What are you asking for? What impossible thing do you want to see God do? And my God says, ask in faith, believing, and ye shall receive. Do you understand? It's not you who's going to do the impossible. It's God through you who's going to do the impossible. If you think it's you who's going to pull it off, then you've got a vanity problem. Do you understand how powerful your ask is? Or has the devil bankrupted your faith?
Hey there, welcome to my channel based strong motivation. Today I speak Just Believe 2024. I remember after giving a speech, gentleman came up. That's real great motivation for you. Young guys, I have done all my work. I said, oh yes, you have got a lot to give. The fact that you are still here means throw a thing that keeps us from reaching our goal, not feeling earthly. Because see, when you don't feel worthy of your goal, you will begin unconsciously engage in self-destructive behavior like procrastinating something else, reaching our goal, and that is we spend complaining and blaming everybody. I am reminded of about the fact there was a dog on the porch and groaning asked the owner, groaning, and the owner said, because he is lame and does not he get off. He said, it's how many? And people who groan, complaining, and other their job, they self up job and never do anything, sick and tired of being and tired. Now I cannot get you where you want to go, that cannot create things that keep greatness and their true potential. Circumstance, are you letting your circumstance talk you about God put in your heart? You have to get in agreement with Him and say, God, happen. I still believe I can start my business. Tried and it did not work out, and does not mean it's not have a made up mind. Believe until you see that promise come to pass. The ideas are against me. My dreams, I was raised in dysfunction, but I still believe I can set a